Welcome to The Midnight Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, alongside my fellow co-host, Tyler and Easton. We are both entrepreneurs who are learning, growing, and building our own businesses. Our goal is to share our experiences and knowledge to help you grow and become a successful entrepreneur. Strap in. Before we get started, if you have any questions or things you'd like us to cover, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. And if you'd like to join our business Discord where we talk about wins, business problems, or general questions, shoot a message and we will get you in there. Tyler, what's going on? I'm live from New York City. Isn't that what they say on like the, I don't know, the Tonight Show or something? Yeah.
Maybe the morning show, maybe both.
Live from New York City. Yeah, right here in my hotel room. Beautiful look. You're in frickin' Arizona. This podcast is just all over the place.
Hey, maybe that would be, I feel like we've done an episode on it, but consistency, no excuses, just stuff like that. Like, you got to get stuff done. It's your standards.
That's and we're getting stuff done. I would like to say from the top of the episode, if you hear some wicked drilling and noise going on, there is someone doing some crazy stuff in the room below me with power equipment and tools. So we might experience some of that, but hey, no excuses. We're getting the episode done. It is Thursday afternoon. Dude, being on the Eastern time zone, so weird. It feels like your life is just ahead of everybody else's. It's so weird.
Is that what you think?
Yeah, maybe that's why I like Vegas so much, because it's on the West Coast time, and I feel like you got so much life ahead of you, and you got so much, like the world is out there for the taking. Yeah, but are you behind or are you just, you've got so much, like you can see the future? That's what it feels like.
I feel like you're in the past, though.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Last night, like I was thinking, okay, right now, Tyler's time, 9 o'clock. It was 6 o'clock for you. I was like, you still got so much time to do stuff. And granted, I already, went through those hours for me, but it just feels like it's super weird, man. Weird transition. Still getting used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think I still get up before you?
Well, I know the other day I was up at 7. So I was like, Tyler's probably just getting up now too, about 4 o'clock. So
I'm actually 2 hours behind, so I was up a little bit before you.
2 hours behind. Oh, you're Mountain time?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're not West Coast time.
Mm-mm.
When do you get to West Coast?
West Coast, I'm right on the border, I'm pretty sure, of like West and Mountain time. Mountains,
that makes it a little bit better then.
Yeah, I feel like mountains are I really like Mountain time. I think mountains got like a good time zone because it's like not too late, like all the quote unquote prime time stuff starts at like good times. Like you can catch a little bit of the late night football games or whatever you're watching before you go to bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because like back home, a lot of those late night games will start at 8:15, 8:20. It's like, who the hell is staying up till midnight to watch this shit?
I did notice that the other day when I was watching the national championship game. I'm like, dang, it's kind of late. It's getting started at 8:30. I'm like, damn. Yeah. But yeah, it's all right. We get her done. New York City is good. We shot Monday, Tuesday. I shot some B-roll outside yesterday. Things are going good here in New York City. It's fun to be able to shoot in a bigger city. Had some really cool locations, some really awesome guests that we were shooting with, some interview stuff. So can't complain. Things are going good over here on the East Coast.
You fly your drone at all over there?
No, I didn't bring my drone.
No.
I don't even know what the rules are. Well, I still don't have my Part 107, Tyler. So
what?
I still don't have my Part 107, so it's hard to, if you're going to illegally fly it, I don't know if here's the place to do it, but yeah, I didn't bring it. Honestly, didn't have room in my cases. I just traveled 2 Pelicans, and they were packed to the brim with lights, audio, camera, and a couple tripods, or not tripods, but light stands. So yeah, we packed pretty light, but it's going good here. Now I got a couple days to just do whatever. I mean, I still got a lot of work to do on my computer and stuff, but we'll get to some of the touristy stuff here the next few days.
How did traveling with all your stuff go? Because I know we talked about that previously.
Yeah, actually pretty seamless. Took a while for them to check the bag when I was leaving Bismarck. They had to wipe down all the batteries with these things just to make sure they weren't explosives or anything. So that probably took 10, 15 minutes, but check the bag, that took 2 minutes. That was interesting.
My bad.
Yeah, Tyler's camera just shot over to his leg. But yeah, God, threw me off. Checked my bags. It only took a couple minutes, and then I was just sitting there waiting in the airport. So honestly, not that big of a deal. Showed up, I was like the first bag off of the plane when I got to New York. I took an Uber to the hotel, and it was really seamless. So, funny story though, I was getting an Uber yesterday to go, or 2 days ago to go to our shoot, and I walked down to the Uber with both of my Pelicans that I was bringing, and I forgot my tripod in my room. So I threw them in the back of the Uber, and I immediately said, "Oh my God, I forgot something. I'll be back in 2 seconds." So I sprinted up to my hotel room, grabbed the tripod, sprinted back down. I was like, man, that guy could have easily just drove off with like $10,000 worth of camera gear, and I would have never seen him again.
The Uber driver?
Yeah, I put my trust in his hands, and he was still there. Tipped him, I think, like 40% just for staying. So, yeah, other than that, things are going good. The client is really happy with me kind of handling everything. They're wanting to do more shoots, another one in New York, but they're like, should we fly you out again? And I'm like, well, probably not for just one day. So I'm like, I have a guy in Baltimore. He can come there. He can take the train there and shoot it. And they're happy that I've been lining everything up and really acting as that producer role.
Sounds like a good time out there.
Yeah, it's going good. What about you, Tyler? What's going on your end?
Yeah, I was trying to, because you might have to edit this in post, but the volume on that was a little low, and I just adjusted it. So I was trying to pay attention to it to see if it was at a good volume now. But yeah, we're out here. We had our first 20-minute call with the one client, and that's something that he wanted to do weekly. Went all right. It went a little bit over. He wanted that pretty soon, rather sooner than later. So it was the first call that we had was the hour-long call. And basically what he wants to get out of these calls is just making sure that everything's going well, prioritization, and if we need to check in with each other or figure stuff out. So I'm not sure if we're going to be needing to do the 20-minute call every single week, but I think once he starts to gain trust in me, he might not want to do it as often, and we might not need to do it as often. So it's just building up that trust and making sure prioritization, everything's getting done well. And ended up finishing in the email for him and then sent it to him. He said, yeah, it looks good. So starting off, I think pretty good. It's just a little bit on my end is what I realized is I need to prioritize better the certain stuff that I need to do, because I did something for his services. And I'm like, this probably should have been the last thing that I did as opposed to the first thing that I did. So it's just like, I'm going to have to start prioritizing a little bit better for him and everything that he's got going on to make sure that the proper stuff is getting done first, and then worrying about the lower priority stuff later.
Well, I'm glad you're learning through the process, Tyler. That's the one thing about working with clients. You know, it takes a few clients under your belt to kind of figure out the flow of things, figure out the process and what works best.
Mm-hmm. What is it? Learn from your mistakes. If you'd make it again, it's like you're not learning. So yeah, that's
fool
one
me
thing
once,
that I just
shame
learned.
on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I'm learning is just I got to prioritize the important stuff first, as opposed to the stuff that's just the easy stuff that I can just knock out real quick and make it look like I'm doing something. So that's just one thing that I realized that I got to start doing better is prioritizing the stuff that's important and needs to get done first.
Yeah, last couple of days, I've been trying to work on focusing better, where, figuring out a task and avoiding all procrastination that I can. And one thing that, I thought I could do is there's always a reason people procrastinate. And I think the reason I think what you should do is you should think about what is the reason. So let's say, I don't want to edit this video. This video is due, but I keep procrastinating editing it. Why am I procrastinating? Is it because you don't know how to edit it? Well, that's not the case. Is it because you don't want to edit it? That might be the case. Or is it because, what is that factor? And then you can mentally talk yourself through why that's not actually an issue. So I've been trying to do that lately with a couple different things, and I think it's going
well.
Well,
how do you get past it if it's not an issue, but you don't want to do it? So that's your hurdle. Your hurdle is I don't want to do this.
Yeah, but then you have to ask yourself the question of why don't you want to do this?
Because you don't like editing.
So then you have a different problem that arises. There
you go. You got to hire someone up.
Exactly.
You got to get rid of this problem.
So then you're running into your issue because there's something, I'm like, okay, why? I was thinking about this yesterday. I got to reach out to people to be on the business podcast. And I didn't do it Tuesday, didn't do it Wednesday, haven't done it yet today. And I'm like, why am I not doing this? So I thought about it. And the reason that I'm not doing it is because I don't know who to reach out to. So then it gives me my first step. So I thought about it. I was like, why am I not doing this? And then I thought, well, it's because you don't know who to reach out to. So I thought, okay, let's go on these different Facebook pages and see, what businesses are being featured there. And then you can start to have that path of who to reach out to. So just doing that mental exercise of why are you not doing this? Why is it taking you 3 days to do this simple task? Then you can kind of get to the root cause of the actual reason you're procrastinating.
Right. So is that how you go about trying to get new not customers, get new people on your podcast, is through these Facebook pages, or what are some of your methods that you go through?
I mean, there's a couple different things. One, sometimes I'll just drive around Minot and be like, oh, that business would be good, and then reach out to them. There's a couple, so there's one that's like a startup Minot, it's called, where they have guest speakers every week. And if some of those people are interesting, I think it'd be cool to have them on the podcast. Sometimes I get recommendations like, hey, so-and-so would be great for the podcast. Here's the contact information. So there's a bunch of different ways that we get people on the podcast, but I'd say the main way is just one, businesses I already know, or just driving down Broadway or driving down 16th Street and being like, oh, that'd be a cool business to get on the podcast.
Do you target them specifically? Because I know that part of your marketing strategy with it is to get these potential clients on the podcast.
Yeah, I try to get people that I want on the podcast for sure, like people I want to meet and people that I think it would be an influential relationship if I had that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, you can't have everybody on the show that fits that exact criteria. So there's times when, I'll have a smaller business on that maybe isn't ready for the type of video production I offer, but definitely try to hit those people that, this relationship could turn into something down the road.
Nice. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to copy this address and send it to Shayna to get to the hotel. I'm good now. I copied it. But so, I mean, that's kind of the one thing I've been focusing on is the procrastinating and why you're actually doing that. It's been a nice little mental exercise. So, Tyler, anything else, any other updates you got for us at the top of the show?
Yeah, one thing that I just did the other day was reach out to my boy Mike from the website that I made for him the other day just to see how everything's going, if there's any issues, he has any questions. He said everything's going good, and then it was funny, like an hour later, he's like, funny you should say that, I just received this, blah, 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 what happened? Is it on their end? Is it on our end? And then I just quickly went over it, sent him a quick video. I don't think he's watched it yet, but yeah, I helped him out there and just thought I would check in with him to see if everything's going good. And he said, yeah, everything's great, out of sight, out of mind, which is great. Awesome to hear from him. And the last thing is just these swim lessons that I joined, and they're going to be extremely hard, but it's going to be extremely good for me because it's going to help push me because I'm with a lot better people than myself, and I'm probably the weakest swimmer in it. And you probably don't know him, but there's this local guy that's also there, like from where I'm from, like in Windsor, and he's like one of the best triathletes in the world, and he's in the swim classes as well. And I'm like, damn, he's fast at swimming. And I'm one of the slow swimmers in the class. So they split us up into like 2 sections, like the slow group and the fast group. The fast group will do like an extra lap typically compared to the slow group. But yeah, I think that's going to be extremely beneficial. We just started that on Tuesday. That's going to be every Tuesday and Friday. So looking forward to that and just improving myself there.
Is that the guy that you were hoping to bump into?
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Right? It's extremely coincidental that the place that I signed up for that he belongs to at the swim lessons that I knew he went to, that I'm going to bump into him every Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah, you definitely weren't like, where does he go? What does he do? It just happened to line up like that.
Yeah, it was like the stars aligning or something like that. Yeah. It'll be extreme. Like, he kind of keeps to himself, but he does talk every now and then. It's like, I bring my Good Life bag there. And if he does like talk about or ask me like, where in Canada you're from? And it's like, I've like tried to play it through my head. It's like, I don't want to sound extremely creepy, but I'm from Bell River.
Yeah.
So it's like, because that's
I'm
like 30 minutes from where he's from. Yeah, pretty much. He's like, so you following me? It's like, yeah, I kind of am.
A little bit, but we're not going to talk about
a little bit,
that.
but not really. You're right. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you ran into him. Last update on my end is transitioning, taking over the business from the gentleman that I'm working with in Bismarck. That's still in the process. Got to figure out what those terms are going to be. I'm leaning more so towards an earn-out where, I'm still paying him for the business, but it's over a long period of time, and I can update on that more so when I get the terms a little bit. But right now, I just want to update that is still in the process.
I just kind of blanked out there. So do you see yourself going through with this? Because I know this is like a big shift for you, and like from what you originally thought was going to happen compared to like, are you happy that this is going to be happening this way, or?
Yeah, I think it's going to be better for the business. It's not a huge shift. It's not like I'm writing him a check and then the business is mine and it's over and done with. We're still working together through it. So he's still involved for a couple years. He's just not going to be terribly involved. Like the client communication part is going to be all on me. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but I think it's better for the business to take things over fully. He said he has no affiliation or tie to, keeping the name of the business. So if I want to buy the actual name of it and keep it under that for a couple years before I transition, so the clients get used to it, I can do that. So interesting to see what will happen with this, and I hopefully will have more details next week and the week after. But yeah, for now, I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's pretty exciting. Going to provide for a lot of good experience for you.
Yeah, it'll be good, and hopefully I can update you guys along the way with the process that I go through and the things that I learn as far as how it goes buying a business or taking over a business, whatever you want to call it. But we'll save that for future episodes. Tyler, we're going to move into, let's just switch it up this week. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we can do that. But one thing that I did just want to touch on with the swimming lessons, because like I said, I'm like one of the worst swimmers there. And I think it's a good thing that I'm doing that. And it's one thing to always think about. If you want to improve yourself, surrounding yourself with those other people that are going to push you to be better. Because when I typically swim, I'm by myself. So I'm not pushing myself as hard or as hard as I could be. But now that I'm with these other people and that they're all better than me, I got to try and keep up with them, which pushes me to try and be a better version of myself. So that could go in any area other than just swimming. It could be in business, could be in personal, could be in relationships, could be financial. That's what happens when you're surrounding yourself with these other people. You start to push yourself into becoming a better person. And this could lead into the topic that we're going to be going on. It's like, it helps you become a better version of yourself because you're pushing yourself to stretch and become a better, more versatile version of yourself.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said it. It doesn't necessarily have to be just for swim lessons. It can be any aspect of your life, whether it's business or fitness or nutrition or mindset, whatever it might be. The more people you're around that you want to be like, the better. They always say you're the average of the 5 people you're around the most, right? So we're going to do a little bit different format here moving into the show. We're going to do the business story for the end of the show, and we're just going to dive right into this week's topic. So like Tyler mentioned, we're going to be talking about being a rubber band and being elastic, keep stretching. Tyler, what are your thoughts on this whole concept? I know you just hit on it a little bit. What are your thoughts?
I think life is constant growth and constant learning. And if you aren't and you're just becoming stagnant, I feel like it gets boring at that point because you're doing the same thing over and over again. You're not becoming better. You're not becoming a better version of yourself. So I think this is like an essential part of life, is trying to push yourself to become the best version that you possibly can. And I think that's what happens. And it's very similar to a rubber band, where when you first get a rubber band, it's really stiff. You can't pull it that far apart. But the more you keep pulling it apart and stretching it, the more elastic it becomes. And that's the same thing like with yourself. When you start out, you're really narrow, and then you aren't like great at many things. And then you start expanding and expanding and expanding, and it becomes more easier. And I think that's a big aspect of your life that you should be going over and just trying to improve constantly.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me is that you're always trying new things. Sometimes I have conversations with people and they talk about, oh, I would want to start a business one day. And when you start to ask them the question of, well, what business would you start? They say, I don't know. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm good at. And I think it just goes back to, even if you're not at a point where you have a business and you're trying to stretch that rubber band, just trying a ton of different things until you figure out which rubber band you want to stretch. Does that kind of make sense?
Do you think you should try a bunch of different things or just try one and stick with it?
Well,
how would you approach that?
I think you have to try a bunch of different things to see what you like and to see what you're generally good at. Now, it might be the first thing, it might be the second thing. Like, for me, for example, I tried the hockey clothing company. That was a bad rubber band to choose. You did Nuevo, and now you moved on to New Frame. So there are different things where you need to try different things to see what you're good at. Maybe you're like, oh, I want to start a baking business or something. And then you figure out I'm really bad at baking, or I really hate baking. Okay, then you go on to the next thing. And it might take you 2 different things to choose. I was clothing and then video. I landed on video pretty early. Or it might take you 7 different things. And there's no wrong way. There's no right or wrong way, whether it's you find it quickly or you don't. But I do think you need to try different things until you can figure out, okay, I like this, and now let's start pulling that rubber band, stretching into new services, learning more and more. Like, Tyler, you found your Ironman, and now you're like, okay, how can I push myself? Well, I can join these swimming lessons with a lot better people. Okay, I can download this app that pushes my bike training even harder. But it took you a while to get to the point where you're like, man, I want to do an Ironman.
So do you think this is only to someone that lacks clarity, that they should try a bunch of different things?
Yeah, I think it definitely fits that mold for that person. Because I think everyone starts with no clarity. Because when I started when I started with video, I wasn't like, oh, this is exactly what I'm gonna do. This is the path. Same when you started fitness and exercising, you just started running because you like it, and then you moved to a marathon, and then your marathon, now your goal is the Ironman. But when you started working out more and more, did you ever think, hey, Ironman's my goal? Or did that clarity come later?
Well, I think I'm just trying to go back to someone, say specifically for business, and your point of saying try everything, that they don't know where to go or what to do. That the point I'm going back to is you're saying you should try everything, and this is to someone that says they want to go down this route, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think at the beginning you should try some stuff, but that's just to figure out what the business is. Once you figure out, hey, this is the business I'm running, that's when I think you can start doing the whole rubber band effect.
Because I believe no matter what you choose, you're probably going to be bad because you're just doing it for the first time, and you're probably not going to like it because you suck at it. So a lot of the times when you're first starting out, say you're trying to become a professional snowboarder and you've never snowboarded before, your first few times, you're probably going to be absolute ass at it. You're not going to want to quit, and it's probably going to suck, and you're probably not going to like it because you're falling on your ass the whole time. And then you're going to be like, this sucks. I don't like this. You have to get over that hump.
I think there's a differentiator between something that you don't like, you're not good at, and you think sucks, versus something that you're not good at and you think sucks, but you can tell, okay, I at least like doing this. I think if you go snowboarding, you might be really shitty and think this sucks, but you might be like, but I really like snowboarding. It'd be cool to be good at this. Whereas if you started, for example, when I started my clothing business, there was never a time when it's like, oh, this is hard and I suck at it, but this is going to be really cool when I figure it out one day. Whereas I felt that with video.
Yeah.
Because I don't think everything you start, you're going to hate.
You might, just because you're going to be so bad at it.
You might, but I don't think everything,
Like if you continue down your path of your clothing brand, you don't think you would have enjoyed that? Think about all the partnerships you could have made. You had a hockey brand. That was your life. That was your life at that point. Your life basically revolved around hockey. You would have been potentially partnering with the NHL. You would be potentially going to all these hockey games. You'd be potentially doing video for that stuff. I don't know.
But I didn't like that,
Okay.
That's on the side where it's like, I don't like this, I wasn't good at it, and I didn't like it at all. Like, I hated this. Whereas let's relate it to poker. When I first started playing poker, I was not good at it. I was really bad at it, but I didn't hate it.
It's more of a hobby, though.
Yeah, but I think a business is like a hobby. Video can be a hobby. It started as a hobby. Selling clothes can be a hobby.
Yeah. Selling clothes is a little bit harder than gambling, though. It's
I
like
know.
saying playing PS4 as a hobby.
Yeah, but
PS5.
let's use it.
PS5
Let's use it as your workout terms then.
Okay.
So when you first started working out, did it suck?
I wouldn't say it sucked. It was just I kind of enjoyed it.
Okay, so what is something you started that sucked at the beginning?
Probably photography, videography.
Okay, so it sucked. Were you good at it?
No, that's why I said it sucked.
Yeah. Did you hate it?
No, because I just bought a camera.
Yeah. So you didn't hate it.
This
You
is something
sucked
I
it.
wanted to get
You
into.
sucked and you didn't like it, but you didn't hate it. It was something you wanted to get into. You know what I mean? Where if you did the same thing, where you bought a bunch of baking stuff, you might have got to the point where you're like, this sucks, I hate it, and I don't want to do this. Whereas camera, you said, this sucks, I'm bad at it, but I do want to do this. So I think it depends on which area, and you're not going to know what you're going to like, but you're definitely going to suck at everything you start, but that doesn't mean you're going to hate sucking at it.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know what you're saying, but I don't think everything you start is exactly the same where you have to push through it. I think you can tell the differences between starting something and you're like, yeah, I'm definitely not doing this, and then starting something you're like, yeah, I'm really shitty at it, but I would much rather do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I was just trying to bring up a counterpoint.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you being the devil's advocate. That's why we do this podcast, so we can get good conversations in. But going back to that, yeah, once you figure out something that you really enjoy doing and you might suck at it, you're probably going to suck at it at the beginning, that's when you need to start expanding what you're doing and be that rubber band. Start talking to people that you want to be like in your industry. Start trying services that you want to provide in your industry, because like Tyler said at the beginning, if I'm starting a video business, I'm like, I really want to add photo to this. I'm going to suck at it. That band is going to be really tight. I'm taking photos, these edits suck. It's going to be really tight. The more you do it, that band's going to loosen up and loosen up. Okay, now you got video and photo under it. And then maybe you're like, okay, let's add website services. Boom. Then you're back to that rubber band being super tight. And you keep stretching it, and boom, now you have website services. So I think it's a really cool concept for adding new services, but you have to be willing to withstand that really shitty part where the rubber band is tight as a nun.
Mm-hmm.
PG-13 podcast.
Yep.
What else we got on the notes here, Tyler?
I was just getting outside your comfort zone. That's one thing that you really got to do if you are going to be wanting to stretch yourself, is you're going to be taking on new things and going to be doing something probably completely outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to be needing to actually push past that point of comfort to be able to stretch yourself.
How do you think you mentally do that? Because I know for me, sometimes it is harder to go out and try new things or go do something that I've never done before. Getting out of that comfort zone. How do you mentally, what does your mindset look like for that?
I was just listening to a podcast with Huberman and David Goggins, and Huberman talked a little bit about this little thing in the front of your brain. And every time you do something that you don't want to do, you start to expand that. And this is basically your willpower. And the more you keep doing stuff that you don't want to do, the more it expands, the more you'll be willing to do stuff that you don't want to do. So this is something that you really got to push past whenever you think of, say, this is why like doing ice baths or cold showers is really good for you, because it expands that thing. So if you always cave in and say, I want to go for a run, but it's raining outside, so I'm not going to do it, and you always say no to this shit, that's going to start shrinking. So basically, whenever something comes up that you say you want to do and you say no, you're giving into that. So you have to start saying yes to that stuff that is you saying, I don't want to do this. So it's making sure, like, once you start saying yes, it's going to start expanding, and that comfort zone, getting out of it is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, we all know those people that hate uncomfortable situations. You know, maybe it's a social situation where you go somewhere and you have to be around people you've never met, or you have to go to a location you've never been to, and people just get super uncomfortable with that. Where that's an example of a situation where say yes to it. Go into a room, start learning how to go into the room with confidence and not be uncomfortable. And that can happen in all aspects, whether it's business. For example, I've never traveled with my gear before. I've never shot something in a different state where I had to fly to it. It was super uncomfortable. It was anxious having to pack everything, but it's getting you outside of your comfort zone. Tyler's never ran or done an Ironman, so he had to get outside of his comfort zone and start swimming. It probably was a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning. You weren't the best swimmer. You didn't know the best technique to swim, but getting out of that comfort zone allowed you to expand what your capabilities are.
Yeah, I was going to say something on that, but
but you're just so dumbfounded at how good my answer was.
Yeah. What were you talking about? This is like a daily thing. Like each episode is like one episode where Tyler just forgets what they were talking about and forgets what he was going to say.
Yeah, this episode's it's nice this person drilling below me stopped. They must have heard it.
I know, that was like perfect time. I was going to say it at the end, but you just said it right now, and now he's probably going to start up again, but he's probably done at this point. But
it's on a lunch break. This episode's a little chaotic, and we're working through it.
And this episode's brought to you by...
by BetterHelp. Get some help, you two.
AG1.
Yeah, one quote that I always like that kind of pertains to what we're talking about today is that you don't know what you don't know. Everyone thinks they're great at something. Let's use lighting a video, for example. I'm like, I'm the best at lighting a video. And then you learn a new technique. Roger Deakins does the old butterfly light, and it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. This light is way better. But I never would have known that because I didn't know it. So I think that's what helps when you're getting out of your comfort zone, you're pulling that elastic band, is to try new things, because the things you're going to learn are going to help you be better. But to experience those things, you have to go out and do things.
Yeah, for sure. So 2 things. I remember what I was going to say. And the reason why I feel like I forget is because you know how they always say people don't actually listen. They just listen to respond.
Yep.
I feel like that's what happens, because you say something and it's like, okay, now I'm thinking about what I'm going to respond to you and not listening to what you're saying. So I'm trying to listen to you while thinking about what I'm going to say at the same time. And then I ended up just not doing either.
Yeah. You got to the point where you're like, I'm stuck.
Right. So yeah, what I was going to say, you were saying like me signing up for the Ironman. And when I was doing it at the time, I just had all this confidence built up in me because I was training for a marathon, and I just felt really good about myself and where I was at. So I was like, let's sign up for this Ironman. And one thing that you mentioned was going into a room filled with confidence. Like you're going in there, you got all the confidence in the world, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna rock this or whatever. I'm gonna act, or I'm gonna go in there and have all this presence, that I have all this confidence. Do you have any tips, or how would you say you go in there with confidence as opposed to not being confident?
Well, I think everyone goes in with blind confidence. You think, like you said, you think you know everything. Most people. We're pigeonholing part of the community. But I think most people go in with blind confidence because they think they're an expert at what they know. And that goes back into thinking about what they don't know. So I was in a conversation in a room the other day where they started talking about nutrition and the body, and all of these different things that go on in the body and what polyphenols are and antioxidants. And that's at a point where I realized, I'm like, I don't know what any of this is, right? So I might think I know everything and I'm so smart, but then you get in a room where someone starts talking about something you don't know, and you realize, maybe I shouldn't have been that confident, and it gives you some humility. So I think if you can go into a room with that mindset that these people are smarter than me, I can learn something from them, it's going to help drastically. I always like the saying that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to go to a different room, because you never want to be the smartest person in the room. So that's one thing that I kind of realized yesterday that we can put into this episode, is that everybody knows something that you can learn from them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that I try to be better at, or I would say I'm just probably naturally good at it because I don't like to talk in the first place. But you don't learn when you're talking. you learn when other people are talking. And what you said when you go into a room and you're the most confident, and because you know what you have, and it's like blind confidence. I think even though you have that confidence, I think you should still be going in there, like you said, letting other people talk and not acting like you know everything, because you're not going to learn anything if you're just talking the whole time. So it's just getting other people's opinions and thoughts and making them talk as opposed to you. Even though you might be the expert, you can have say the last word, but at the same time, I think letting them talk first and then you listening and then learning from them is better than you going in there acting all confident and being like, I'm the best, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think people should tell yourself to be a question asker. That's really how you get people talking, is if you start asking questions, they'll start answering things that you might not know. Whereas, you might have the answer to it, but maybe ask them, what do you think about it? Or, what would you do? Once you get people to start talking and you take the burden away from yourself, that's when you start to learn a lot more. And I like how you said that you don't learn when you're talking, because it's 100% true.
Yeah, I was in Tampa one time and we went into this room and this one guy, he just talked everyone's ear off. And I learned like 3 new things, but buddy that decided to talk the whole time, he didn't learn a thing because he was the one that was talking the entire time and he was teaching everyone else. So it's like you still need that balance, but like he was the type of person that controls the room where he's just always in demand or wants to command the room and be the one that's always talking and whatever it is. So he didn't learn anything. Everyone else in the room potentially learned a few new things.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the other day. These world-renowned dietitians and doctors were talking, and I was like, I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to try to figure out what the hell they're talking about. So it's cool when you get in a room where you can learn something from somebody. But if you're not, and you think, all these people are beneath me, go find a different group of people. Try to learn something from somebody else.
Mm-hmm. But you can learn from anyone, I think.
You can learn from anyone. Tyler, anything else? Anything else on this topic?
Did we touch on being tough?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on, making yourself tough, having that mindset. Is there anything else you want to mention on that part?
No, I don't know. I was just making sure we touched on it.
Yeah, we pulled that in at the beginning, which is good. Talking about the mindset of what you need to be tough. But yeah, so with the change of the format we're doing, we're going to do our business story, not the business idea. We'll do that last, but the business story now. Tyler, I did not actually read the article, but I did read your notes on the article. Bitcoin ETFs.
One note.
Bitcoin ETFs begin trading on the U.S. exchanges. This is very interesting to see because I know the Fed and everything was very anti-Bitcoin. They think it's going to take over the U.S. dollar, all this different stuff. And now it's almost like merging. I compare it to the PGA and the Live Golf. They are now one. What do you think about it?
I thought that deal closed out. Or
it might have, but there was some buzz around it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really been a big fan of crypto. It just kind of seemed like that new hot thing. And I just wasn't sure about it. The only crypto I really bought was in Doge when the whole fiasco was going on, and I was just like, yeah, to the moon. And once I started doing some research, I realized that Doge was created to be deflationary, and the purpose of it was a joke, and basically it would never be successful in the end because of the amount of volume or whatever it was. So I was like, oh shit, well, I'll just sell then. And that was right before it like skyrocketed on SNL and then it tanked again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've never really been big on crypto. What about you? Have you been on crypto? I feel like you have some investments there.
Yeah, I've had some Doge, some Ethereum, some Bitcoin. I don't have very much of it at all. Just probably a couple $100 at the most between all of them combined. But yeah, I think it's definitely something that's valuable and it has some value to it. But now I'm just looking at it as just there's things you can buy with it, if you're online, and I don't do it, but all these tech nerds, if you're transferring Bitcoin to get this thing online, I don't know. I don't want to get into the intricacies of it because I don't know a ton about it. But I just look at it as just another stock. right? It's just like buying Apple. If you buy Bitcoin, it goes up, it goes down. It's just
But there's
like
no
buying
value there.
Of course there is.
What's the value?
The value is what
Give
the
me a
people
Bitcoin.
decide. The value is
Give
whatever
me a
the people
Bitcoin.
decide. What do you mean give you a Bitcoin? I don't have a Bitcoin.
Give me a Bitcoin. Exactly. Can you find me a Bitcoin?
I could buy you a Bitcoin.
I want it in physically.
Well, you can't.
So it's nothing.
Are you saying software is nothing then? Software, I can't give you
There's
Bluetooth.
intellectual property.
Okay. I'm just saying anything that the people give value to, Bitcoin, if people are buying and trading it, there is a perceived value to it.
Perceived. There is no value though.
Well, there obviously is a value because if
Hot
you
take.
have one of them right now for $40,000, you can sell it for $40,000. So there's some value.
But I don't get.
You think
one
there's
thing
no
that
value. People that use Bitcoin think there are a ton of value.
I think there's a lot of people that don't think that there's value in it. I think there's a few big whales that are driving the price up, and then there's a lot of people that are kind of sheeps, sort of say, that are just trying to get in there and they're trying to promote it and be like, oh, crypto's the next best thing. You better get it in. You better get in before it's too late. And they're trying to pump the numbers up because it's extremely influential to them because they have money in it. But at the same time,
think about this. Think about if I go buy a Bitcoin. Let's use a Bitcoin as $100 just for easy numbers. I go buy a Bitcoin for $100 and I now own one Bitcoin. I want to go to Bovada, a gambling website, and I want to deposit one Bitcoin into my account. It then gets deposited into my account at whatever the value of Bitcoin is. So $150. Let's say Bitcoin went up $50 and now my $100 investment is worth $150 in this thing that I used it for. So I think there's value there. You might not use Bitcoin. I don't use Bitcoin. I would never do any of that. But for the people that are actually using Bitcoin on a daily basis, whatever that is, I don't really entirely know what they're using it for.
Drugs.
But that's just one example. There is an inherent
money
value
laundering.
to it. It could.
Yeah. So the other thing that I heard about this was it's the same thing with gold. If everyone that's invested in gold withdrew their investment, there wouldn't be enough gold to go around. So with gold, there's actually a physical thing that you can exchange that money for. The only thing is there's a surplus to the investment to the actual compared to the actual gold that's available. So if everyone did withdraw at the same time, there wouldn't be enough gold to go around. So that's the difference. There's value in gold as opposed to Bitcoin.
But there's a certain amount of Bitcoin.
I know, but the only value is that someone's willing to pay for it. If no one's willing to pay for it,
well, that's how value is for anything.
But there's literally nothing. It's made up though. It's air.
Yeah, but what if I have a story that I will tell you and you'll pay me $20 to tell you that story? Does that story have value? There's nothing there. It's just me talking.
Yeah, but I wouldn't pay $20 for it.
Yeah, but what if I have a business strategy? It's not on paper. Yeah. It's not in anything. I will tell you this business strategy. You have to pay me $50,000 for it. Is there value? There's nothing there.
I believe there is value.
Why? There's nothing there.
You're given a blueprint. It's a strategy. It's the same thing as like a video.
You can see a video. This is just verbal talking. Just like if there's nothing for Bitcoin. I get what you're trying to say, but I disagree.
Yeah, but are you just telling me or are you giving me...
I'm telling you.
I don't know.
I'm not giving you any
It's like a coaching.
No,
it's like coaching then.
Yeah.
Is it not like coaching then?
Yeah. So, okay, use that as a professional coach.
There's a value exchange.
A professional coach that stands on the bench. What is the value of them? Just their knowledge?
Yeah. I think there's a value exchange. So like with like a coach, if I hire a coach and I pay them $10,000 a year and they help my business go from say 100K to $1 million. They just helped, what was that 10x? 10x my business. So is that worth it? Or
I know, but it's the same thing. If I pay $100 for Bitcoin and it goes to $200, I just doubled my money.
Some schmuck just lost out on that.
Maybe. But that's how stocks work.
But you're buying into an asset that has value. There's brand value there that they actually sell. There's cash flow. They have cash. They have inventory. They have, like, look at Apple. They have a brand. They have inventory.
You're creating too many rules for what value is.
No, I'm not.
Why does there have to be inventory? Why does there have to be employees?
Because that's value. That's valuable.
Bitcoin could have value. It just fluctuates.
I see no. Tell me what the value is. The value is what someone is willing to pay for it. That's all it is.
That's what any value for anything is. That should be the baseline description of value.
Price is what you pay, value is what you get.
Yeah, and the value, if I pay $100 and I get $150 worth, it's got a $50 value.
You ever see Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
You know those IOUs? That's basically Bitcoin.
Yeah, and those have value. New car.
That's a good one. That's 500,000.
New car.
You want to keep that one.
See? It's just like, just like that, actually. It's a great, you kind of proved my point there. IOUs, they have value. All right, that's enough.
Hold on to that one.
Yeah, that's enough of the Bitcoin. Got shit to do today, Jesus Christ, Tyler. What's your business idea for the week?
So this came to me while I was driving, and just having a brand that you know and trust, that they don't use shit ingredients in their products, because there's too many products out there that insert all this bad shit like sugars or preservatives. And I know it obviously deteriorates the shelf life, but if you saw this brand and the brand identity was, I trust this brand no matter what it is, no matter what product it is, because they only use good products or ingredients. So because I was looking at beef jerky and it was just like all this extra ingredients, like just beef.
I think it'd be cool if
maybe
their label,
pepper.
Their like packaging was literally like a label that had like 3 things or whatever it is, just like the
RX bars.
Yeah, kind of like that, except not processed, because those I assume are processed.
No, they aren't.
Well,
it's literally like 6. So. It's like 6 ingredients. It's like, and then it says like egg whites, cashews, chocolate, whatever.
Yeah. It all goes through a process to get into that form, though. I was having this conversation about the documentary we're shooting in. Not all processed foods are bad. You know what I mean? Because a processed thing, like if you're getting a Twinkie, that's a processed food. But the steak that you get on the shelf, if you eat steak, that's processed. That goes through a process.
It's a different type of process.
I know, but that's how when people think of
this
processed
company's
foods,
manipulating you to start believing. Don't believe this company. I was going to send you this stuff. I'm going to try and find it on TikTok. I'll send you it after. I don't want to say like any of the names or anything because I don't want to get or reveal the company that you're working for. Yeah. But I'll send you it afterward because they kind of talk about how it's so biased, like this industry where these studies are bought and paid for a specific outcome to be biased. Because if you look at like a lot of these studies that show, I know this is actually kind of on topic, where companies will say, I want you to do a research where it shows that cereal is a healthy breakfast. And the people funding it will be someone like Kellogg's. Like, how are you going to trust that when... Sure, scientists prove that there are 7 benefits to eating cereal every morning, but there's 500 not benefits to this. But you have to look at who's funding it, and that's one thing that I'll send you after, because like this industry was funding this research to try and get you to believe a certain way. So I think that's just something that you need to consider as well, because there's so much manipulation, propaganda, and all that shit going on. And I think that kind of goes back into my idea is just as pure as possible. Yeah, and I agree. I'd love to see it. We can have a conversation about it, like with the brand and everything off the air. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think anything
overly processed and added chemicals and additives and all that's never good for you. I just started this thing last night on Netflix called You Are What You Eat. And they do a test study. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. They do a test study where there's 2 different diets. So we can talk about it after. But yeah, I think it's cool.
Bro, you're going to see it so differently once I send you this video.
I'll not hear you.
Did they tell you to watch that?
But no, I just saw it on Netflix when I was scrolling last night. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'll look at it and I'll judge the facts based on it. Like I'm not laden in one side where I'm like, I'm not changing my mind. If I see the video and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, this is crazy. But yeah, super interesting stuff.
Very. Just, I kind of got off topic on this one.
That's
Don't
right.
believe the propaganda.
Anything else you want to touch on, Tyler?
They're all manipulating us. Don't fall for it.
Yeah, I can't believe anybody. That is episode 71 of The Midnight Entrepreneur. If you have any questions you'd like us to cover or answer, you can email us at themidnightentrepreneur@gmail.com. And if you found value in this content or found this entertaining, share this with a friend or post it on your story. And if you really enjoyed the show, we'd love a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Talk to you guys next week for another episode of The Midnight Entrepreneur.
Great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. Samuel Johnson.